I could go on about AI and intelligence and the way that we're putting in capabilities to just like do it for you.
Hello, welcome everyone to an all new episode of Excel TV. I'm here with Theresa Estrada from Microsoft. Say hello, Theresa.
Hello.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, I'm here in Brooklyn. Where are you, Theresa?
I'm in Redmond, Washington.
Awesome. Two different parts of the country, but we're here together today to talk about Microsoft Excel and even the upcoming Microsoft Global Excel Summit. All right, so I'm just going to get us started to find out more about you. I know that you are going to be the speaker at or a keynote speaker at the Global Excel Summit, but before we get into that, I just wanted to let our audience get acquainted with you. I understand Excel is a big part of your past.
It is, yeah. I actually have been using spreadsheets in general for like more years than I can possibly count. I started out working for an accountant when I was in high school and then majored in accounting. And so spreadsheets featured prominently in those formative years for me. And even my very first job in tech, like while I was getting a master's in information systems, I was working for this company in the Midwest that was trying to move to Office at the time. So I went around to all of their different business units and moved all their old solutions over to Excel. So that was kind of my baptism by fire in VBA and kind of all things Excel related. Yeah, so that's kind of where it started.
Awesome. And did you know then that you would have such a love of spreadsheets that you would actually be working on the Excel product at some point?
Honestly, I don't know that I knew that for sure, but I can remember when I was graduating from college, all I wanted to do in life was work for Microsoft, and Excel was the product that I knew and loved the most. And so, I mean, it was pretty amazing when I got to join Microsoft and my first job actually involved Excel.
That is really, really cool. Wow. And so what year was that? How long ago was that?
I have been at Microsoft for a little over 20 years. I joined in
Wow.
1999, last century, which is just kind of funny to say.
So were you before or after Clippy? Or excuse me,
Oh,
were you after they got rid of Clippy or before? Was he around when you were there?
Clippy was not yet there.
Interesting. Okay. Um, I have a fascination with Clippy. I kind of miss him. I don't necessarily want him hanging around my spreadsheets, but I really liked him as a mascot. Um,
I have to say I do too.
yeah, it's sad that he was gone. So thinking about Excel, part of your professional life, you went from working on spreadsheets, like using them, to actually creating the tool of spreadsheets. How has Excel really just impacted your life?
I mean, well, first of all, like it was one of the things that got me a foot in the door at Microsoft. Knowing Excel, being able to get that first job at Microsoft was pretty amazing. But I mean, honestly, I think my brain just kind of thinks in a logical grid-like fashion. So,
I understand that. I
yeah.
get that.
um, you know, whether I was working on Excel at Microsoft or not, there was always some component of my job that I was doing using Excel to get things done, just like so many other people in the world. I mean, and honestly, like I learned to program through VBA. I bet
Mhm.
there are a ton of other people out there who, whether they think of themselves as developers or not, they learned that kind of that programming skill through a first exposure in Excel with VBA.
It's very interesting you say that because my first exposure, it wasn't to programming. Like I started with like Quick Basic, or really even before that. Technically, I started with TRS-80 Basic, which I know sort of dates me, but I figured out a way to do it when I was younger. But the first time I didn't have access to Visual Basic when it was being sold in these like huge packages, right? Except someone told me, they're like, you got to check this out. It's in Excel, and so that's how I kind of learned how to code without buying like a big Visual Studio license. So it's very interesting that you mentioned that. And I think that so many of us learn to code that way. So
Yeah.
when you joined Microsoft working on the Excel product, was that as a coder, or what kind of work did you do with them?
My very first job at Microsoft was actually doing support for our enterprise customers who were using Excel.
And what kind of questions were they asking back then?
Oh man. Back then, it was, kind of basics around writing formulas that people struggled with. Because it was enterprise support, it was
Hmm.
a little more towards the consulting side almost, where people were struggling trying to figure out how to do things and would call us, and we would kind of help them through whatever problem they were trying to solve. Pivot tables came out, kind of around that time. And so that was a new skill that people were trying to learn. So I remember tons of questions about pivot tables. And then just kind of, you know, I remember people calling and asking pretty tough questions about moving files from their desktop to network shares and kind of figuring
Mm,
out how to do that. I mean, today you see a lot of the same kind of things as people, graduate from those network shares up to the cloud, and how do
it's
you make
true.
that migration happen? So it's the world is changing, but the questions that people ask don't change all that
It's
much.
it's so interesting you say that because it's true. Like the problems in many ways are the same as they used to be. I think about like when people describe data lakes, like to me a data lake is nothing different than a shared folder, but maybe there's some people who write in and disagree on that. But it's very interesting you mentioned that everything was going from the shared into the cloud. So, in thinking about how Excel has changed over the years, and you just mentioned that there was, in the past people were taking from their desktop to the shared, and now they're asking about the cloud. How has Excel changed over the years, and what are the new kind of questions we're trying to solve with it?
Yeah. Um, I think Excel has kind of through the years gone on this progression where, we've expanded the set of capabilities that we have in terms of business intelligence. The types of data systems that we're connecting to have grown and gotten more complex over time. And so there's been kind of this evolution of the set of tools that people had to work with all of their data. But honestly, in the last year, um, like the pace of change for the product has just like accelerated like you wouldn't believe. I mean, even a year ago, if you think about it, like a formula returned a single result. Unless you
Right.
knew how to do a control shift enter formula, like it was one formula and one result. And today, with our dynamic array formulas, like
Hmm.
that one formula now returns a whole set of results without doing anything different. And all of our basic formulas have embraced that. Like we have fundamentally changed the calculation engine and the way that it knows how to deal with functions and formulas. And the same is true with like the data types feature that we've
Hmm.
added. Right now we've got the stocks and the geography data types. And in the past, it was like whatever you saw in the cell, that's all there was. And
Right.
now what shows up in the cell is just the tip of the iceberg. And you can reference all these other properties about the thing that is showing up in the cell, which is just like it kind of breaks your brain a little bit when you think about what the calculation engine has had to do to now be able to reason over those completely new concepts. So that's been one like amazing evolution to watch in the product. The other one has been in terms of collaboration. Um, a few years ago, if you and I both opened the same spreadsheet, somebody was getting the dialogue that says,
Right. Oh, I
sorry,
know it.
like someone else has this open, try again later, or tell them to close it.
Hmm.
And today, like we think nothing of having more than one person in the spreadsheet, being able to see what other people are doing, having a whole commentary around your cells and the work that you're doing, like that whole evolution has just, like accelerated incredibly. There's so many, like I could go on about AI and intelligence and the way that we're able to, instead of making everyone learn how to use those more advanced BI features,
Hmm.
now we're putting in capabilities to just like do it for you essentially. Like the ideas feature will go and find the trends and patterns so you don't have to learn how to figure out your data and analyze it. We'll go and do that for you through some AI and then just serve up some results. Like it is
It, it's
super
it's
exciting.
very exciting times, and um, for me, I don't even know where to start anymore because I started with VBA, I got heavy into that type of programming, And now when people ask me, so should I learn VBA or how should I learn? I'm like, just wait a few months because this TypeScript thing's going to be huge.
Yeah.
I think that like it's very exciting. And what's really interesting to me when I teach Excel and then, now I teach Power Query and Power BI, what I tell folks is, because they always seem to be really concerned about it, I'm like, listen, all that stuff that we were doing the hard way in Excel before, it's almost like the designer sat down and they thought about it. And so if you know how to do it in Excel before, it really isn't that hard to go to Power BI or to go to Power Query, and really just convincing people to be interested in this, because Excel education, and this is really what I get so focused on, it still is thinking like it's like the 90s, I think that they're still very much focused on, how do we do database functions, and I don't know if you worked on database functions or someone who did, so I don't want to say anything negative on that, but I think that like where I'm going with this is that the future with Excel is very, very bright and it's very interesting. And now we're using, and all those things we were doing in VBA before are actually being replaced by much easier options to use. I would love, I think that like, and you could tell me, I don't know how much you're allowed to tell me, but like data tables, you could tell that when someone uses an Excel data table, it's old because of the way that you have to highlight something and there's no instruction, and all the new stuff just walks you through it. So even if you're not an advanced user, it's kind of incredible how that you've been able to take these advanced activities and streamline them for the everyday user. Just my two thoughts. You've been working on, you started on the Excel product team, and then you moved over to other Microsoft product teams. Could you tell me about your experiences with those other teams? And also, and I know I'm loading this question, why Excel is the best?
Sure. So I worked on Excel when I first started, and then from there I moved into my first role as a program manager, working on what we call our sustaining engineering team. So that's not too far removed from that original support job. It's essentially the team at the time that was responsible for all of our in-market products. So once we shipped the product, and back then it was those kind of long 3-year release cycles, we would ship it, and then we had to make sure that everyone was successful in using it. So my team worked with our enterprise customers when they found a bug or they needed a design change or something like that, and we helped make that happen. In that same team, I worked on things like our patching system, so like making sure that we could actually create the patches that we needed in order to update everyone's products. And that was around the time that we moved from our old way of doing Office installations and setups to the new click-to-run, or new at the time, click-to-run mechanisms. And then I worked, the other kind of big chunk of time that I had was working on Word. And, working on Word is similar to Excel in the sense that, like, you're working on this app that so many people in the world rely on every single day. I spent 8.5 years there, so it's tough for me to throw the Word guys or the Word team under the bus.
That's fair.
And say that they're not as awesome as working on Excel. But like I mentioned earlier, my brain does tend to think in more of a structured spreadsheet-like way. So personally, I have this really strong affinity for Excel. And it's really cool to think about, like, Excel is this really unique product in that, like, it's an app that can do a zillion different things, but yet it's essentially a platform that you build other apps inside of. Even if you don't use VBA or any of our scripting languages, like just writing formulas, like that's essentially building an app. It's pretty amazing.
So 18 months ago, you joined the Excel program team again. What are you currently working on with them?
Yeah, so I lead a team of program managers that is focused on a couple of different things. So first of all, we're focused on all of our product fundamentals. So that's things like perf and stability, and making sure that as we release every single month, it is with the utmost quality. Kind of hearkening back to my roots in support, like I just have this deep passion for making sure that our customers have the best experience possible. And the perf work turns out to be really exciting sometimes. So I don't know if you happen to see the news, at least, news in the Excel world, that in the last year, we actually went in and kind of cracked open all of our lookup functions and significantly changed how they work to make them way faster than they were in the past.
Awesome.
We actually had this really interesting thing that happened when we did that, because we didn't talk about it as we were releasing that, but we started to get customers reaching out to us saying that they thought something might be wrong because the automation that our customers were doing with Excel suddenly sped up and went from a minutes long process to a matter of a couple of seconds. And we said, oh no, that's actually just us making all of our lookup functionality way faster. So that was pretty cool to be a part of. And then my team also is responsible for all of the ways that we engage with our customers and with the communities of super passionate fans that we have in the world. So this is no surprise to you. There are literally millions and millions of people who just love Excel, and either they're early in their journey and trying to learn to use it, or they're somewhere a little bit further down the path and they just love connecting with people that are equally excited. My team spends a ton of time thinking about what's the right way to connect with those folks. How can we get them the information that they need? We work with our help teams quite a bit to make sure that, you know, we have the right content out there to help people learn, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's very interesting, because I think the old Excel world, we didn't really have access like we do today to developers of the product, and it's amazing that people can ask for features through user voice. And you said that you're doing monthly updates. So how has that changed, like running monthly updates as compared to the old method? You know, how does that change your workflow? How do you even handle that?
Yeah, it's a pretty big shift, as you can probably imagine, to go from our old style of 3 years of kind of planning and developing and testing and releasing the product to this new, much more agile view of the world where we ship every month. We've essentially, the way that we approach things now is that we're just constantly shipping. And so there's no time when we, you know, kind of step away and spend years thinking about things. We're just constantly listening to customer feedback and, you know, understanding as we build new features in the product or change things in the product. It's not a matter of ship it and forget it and move on to something else. It's we put it into the product and we use our Office Insiders to or we release to the Office Insiders so that we can start to get that early round of feedback and understand if people are able to use the new features or the changed features and be successful with them. And then it's only when we understand how things are actually working for customers that we kind of expand that and get it out to our broader general availability audience. So it's just like, it's fundamentally different the way that we approach everything in terms of shipping the product.
Awesome. It is really incredible. And it presents interesting opportunities for me as someone who does training in Excel to actually show people what, you know, there's some organizations whose material is just not even updated to XLOOKUP, and I don't think that they even knew that Microsoft was doing an XLOOKUP. So really, you know, for better or for worse, the change is happening almost faster than people, I think, can keep up for right now because it's so new. But I think that the future, it'll be really cool when, you know, things come out and then we turn, like on YouTube, we can turn my fellow Excel developers, we can like turn around like some training very quickly. But I think for these bigger shops, that when you show them what can be done in Excel, they're like, wow, you know. And I think Microsoft has really done a really good job of realizing kind of how people used to use the product and is really trying to push this new knowledge now, and that it's not like so advanced that you know, your basic users couldn't use it. You're going to be doing the opening keynote at the Global Excel Summit. For the people who don't know about the Global Excel Summit yet, it is an awesome conference for Excel developers, freelancers, anyone interested in the product. It is happening in London in April 21st through the 22nd, and you are going to be one of the keynote speakers. Tell us about that and what you'll be speaking about.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have the opportunity to speak at the Global Excel Summit. The talk's really going to be focused on modern work. I mean, the ways that people are working today are just like fundamentally different than the way that they worked even just a few years ago. There's this huge explosion of data. People are collaborating way more. And all of that kind of creates these pressures to get things done quickly. So I'm going to be talking about the ways that Excel can help everyone kind of tackle those new challenges in the ways that people are working today. We'll talk about kind of how AI fits in there. We'll talk about the tools that we have to enable kind of more effortless collaboration. And of course, it wouldn't be a keynote without a couple of awesome demos to show off.
Awesome. Oh, we love demos. Obviously, we would love to see everyone at the Global Excel Summit. Make sure to check out the link below to find out how you can join. As with all the new developments in Excel and all the cool new features, I think that a big part of it, like you said, is the community. So what are ways our community watching right now, if they don't know about it, what are ways that they can get involved to actually have a say in the product?
Yeah. So one place that you can go, you mentioned it earlier, is user voice. Our team spends a bunch of time looking at the suggestions that we get through the user voice channel. We also have our Microsoft Tech community, and we have an Excel space there with approaching 40,000 members in that Excel community where people are kind of sharing the work that they're doing, helping each other out. So I would invite everyone to become a member of the tech community. And then, if you're using the product and you want to tell us something about your experience, whether it's positive or negative, there is a mechanism in there to send us feedback. And we spend a ton of time reading that feedback, understanding what everyone's experience is with the product. And we use all of that as part of our development processes and our planning processes.
I think it's really incredible because I guess, for so many years there are these products that would say give us feedback, and you never really knew what would happen to it. It was like the big black hole. But actually the Excel team really does. I think it probably could be said across all the Office teams. They really do look at the feedback. Tell me if I'm wrong on this, but when your Excel, if it crashes or something happens that's wrong, it sends something back to Microsoft, right? That can actually give you an idea of what happened. And if you saw some sort of pattern in that, you could actually address it. Is that correct?
It is, as long as whoever is using the product has opted in to send us their data, then that data comes back to us, and we look at that in an aggregated way to figure out what are the top issues that people are having, and then we focus our engineering efforts in that area to make sure that we can get those problems solved. And because we now ship in this monthly cadence, those updates get out to our users incredibly fast.
I think it's really interesting because it's like I assume, obviously I don't really know, but I would assume you use some sort of machine learning as data comes in. And so, Excel is both a tool that can, I guess, employ machine learning now through ideas, but also it uses it on the back end to improve itself, which is really a new era in products. And certainly an exciting time to be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so one final question, very important. What is your favorite Excel function?
Oh, man. I probably have to go with XLOOKUP. I know it's new and it's buzzwordy and all of that.
It's a great choice.
But I used to be a VLOOKUP girl, but since XLOOKUP came out, it's just so much easier. I love it.
XLOOKUP is it's like they listened to what was the most annoying things, and they saw that index match and VLOOKUP fight, as Oz Du Soleil talks about. And it's like they just improved all of it. They gave you what you needed to do in it. I was thinking in asking that question, what would be my favorite? And it used to be index, but I kind of love XLOOKUP. It's really, these are new times for Excel, and I'm just looking back at all my old stuff and seeing what new functions I can put in instead of doing it the old way, and how that will open up the future.
Yeah. The other thing I will say, the one other is unique. I think that is how many times have you wanted to get that unique set of items from a giant list, and there just was no easy way to do it? And now, it's a snap, equals unique. Here's the
It's
list.
true. It's
Give me
true.
all the answers.
Awesome. No, it's true. And for anyone who's watching who hasn't tried either of these functions, they're really great. And it really shows an awesome future for Excel. Well, before I close up, I just want to ask: is there anything you want to add? Let our audience know about.
Honestly, I am just so excited about everything that is showing up in the product. Like it's been kind of years in the making, and a lot of these new features that are just kind of all showing up all at once right now. But if you haven't had a chance to try our Office 365 version of the product with all of the new features in it, it is so worth it. I kind of can't even imagine working in the older versions of Excel anymore because so much has shown up recently and has changed, and it just unlocks like this incredibly new way of working. Everyone should give it a shot.
Awesome. Well, the new era of Excel is upon us. Well, thank you so much, Theresa, for joining us. This is Jordan Goldmeyer with Excel TV. Make sure to check down below in the links to see everything we talked about, including links to the 2 new functions that we talked about. And also, I think there were 6 new functions in total that have come out. Is that correct, or do you know?
I think that sounds right.
I think that sounds right. Well, they're all really cool, and they're part of the new Excel. I thank everyone for watching. Until next time, keep on excelling, and we hope to see you at the summit.